welcome to The Other Side, Mississippi Today's political podcast. I'm Jeff Pender. Joined here today, we have the politics and government team. We've got Taylor Vance. Taylor, hello.
Hey, Jeff.
We've got Katie Lynn. Katie, how are you?
Good.
Good. And we have Michael Goldberg. Michael.
Hey, Jeff.
Fairly big week. I think maybe we can just kind of recap the week's events as far as Mississippi politics and related topics. Taylor, we had special elections.
Very
primaries.
Yes, the primaries. Very extremely special that had to take place because of court-ordered redistricting.
Right.
Not congressional redistricting, which has been in the national news recently. This is state legislative redistricting. Every 10 years with the census, the legislature redraws its districts. After that happened, there was litigation filed arguing that there were not enough districts that allowed black voters to elect a candidate of their choice. A federal 3-judge panel agreed, and that's why there were 14 districts had to be redrawn, and special elections had to take place in those districts. Tuesday was the primary elections for that, and not really much of a surprise. It was, in my opinion, sort of a pro-incumbency election cycle, and most elections are. Except for one instance, and that was in Jones County. Senator Robin Robinson did get defeated by a pretty good margin by a Republican opponent named Don Hartness, and there is no Democratic candidate running in that race, and so Don Hartness will, since he's won the primary, he will win the overall election, and he will be the new state senator for that district.
Politically, it was noteworthy from your story. Mm-hmm. Hartness is in the Chris McDaniel kind of ultra-conservative orbit, correct?
Yes, he is in the Chris McDaniel kingdom of Ellisville.
Yeah.
And, I think if this election kind of may have shown anything, it was that I think voters really don't like redistricting a whole lot, and they don't like it when they don't like it when their home area is kind of spliced up in redistricting, and I think that played a little bit of a role in this race. I think Jones County was split up a good bit in the Senate. Senator Juan Barnett, I think, ended up getting a large slice of that, and I think a lot of, particularly a lot of citizens in Ellisville didn't really like that, and I think they criticized the plan and criticized those efforts, and I think they kind of tried to link Senator Robin Robinson to the Senate leadership's efforts with that, and I think that played a lot into that race.
But now Governor Tate Reeves had another theory on
he did have a take. Our governor has never let nuance sort of get in the way of a good story that he wants to paint. He had a different take that was that Medicaid expansion played a large role. I don't think he said he played a large role. I think he said it was the reason of why Robin Robinson lost, and may have been the reason. Oddly enough, he pointed out that David Parker did not run for re-election, which I thought was even stranger. I'm not going to say that Medicaid expansion played no role, in the election. There may be some people who criticized, Robin Robinson's stance on Medicaid expansion. I don't know. I have not done enough reporting on that, but to say that it was the reason, I think, is misleading at best. I don't think there could be one broad reason. Maybe I think each race had its own reasons.
Sure. Just the overall unusual to have, I guess, what you would call do-over elections. Although it's happened before in Mississippi.
It has.
I remember the 01, I believe it was. Yeah. Similar thing. A lot of incumbents, as I recall, quite a few. went home, did not return.
Yeah.
From that one. Anyway, like I said, pretty busy week for you guys.
Yeah, and I would just point out, we're still not through with special elections. Yeah. We will have the general election in early November, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Now, a lot of these were decided either outright by the primary or in all practicality, yes. Correct?
Yes, there will be no runoff in the primaries. There was all candidates received an outright majority of the votes. And then, of course, in the general, there are no runoffs, period. So.
Right. Katie, good to have you back on. You missed the follow-up podcast after the Neshoba County Fair. We were going to ask you what you thought of the weather, how the Neshoba County late July weather compared to Northern California.
There's really no comparison.
I'm sure. But anyway, like I said, good to have you back. And one thing you had this week, very interesting report, kind of an overall look at the situation in Mississippi with electric vehicles and related economic development issues. As you pointed out in that, Mississippi is invested now in electric vehicles, are we not?
Yeah, there's the big battery plant that's going to be up in Marshall County, which is between PACCAR and a couple of other companies. And I think it's about a $450 million investment or grants that are coming from the
state.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But electric vehicles make up only a very small portion of the market within Mississippi itself.
Right. We're either one of the lowest.
Yeah. It's like 0.1% of total vehicles.
People owning electric.
Total car sales.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is there any reason for that?
I think Michael did some reporting on it about why.
Yeah, there have been some would call it protectionist laws put in place over the past few years to ensure that brick and mortar, that there's sort of a limit on EV brick and mortar shops in Mississippi to protect incumbents. So that could have played a role, perhaps.
Not only that, we levied a special tax on them. While other areas were giving EVs tax breaks, Mississippi put a special tax on them. The reasoning being they're not helping pay for the
roads. It's also worth noting that was before the sort of what some should say the rising political influence of Elon Musk became a dominant force in the GOP. So
now he's not as much of a force, but still a force, I guess. After
every day, it's sort of a pendulum. I think
that's right.
Well, Katie, you pointed out obviously it's been a big topic about federal subsidies going away as far as EVs and all. And how is that like? Are we already seeing effects from that?
Yeah. So the incentives from the federal government for buying an electric vehicle haven't ended yet, but they're going to be ending in September. And then there was money from the federal government that was going to go to helping to build up some charging ports around the state. And that funding is currently going through the courts. The Trump administration tried to cut it off, and there's been some back and forth with that. There's also even though Mississippi has a very small percentage of electric vehicles, there's also the Nissan plant, which recently said that they're going to push production of, I think it was 2 or 3 EV models to 2028. They were supposed to start this year.
Right. That's a big deal. As you pointed out, Mississippi's big on auto manufacturing, period. So I guess any national trend we could see here.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that electric vehicles overall have been slowing down since 2024 before the cuts were even made. There's just a lack of charging infrastructure broadly, and they are more expensive than a diesel vehicle.
When I'm driving on I-55, I don't see too many charging stations at welcome centers or anything like that. So.
Well, Katie, from your report, no indication yet that the big battery plant would be derailed or greatly scaled back?
In the second quarter earnings call that PACCAR had at the end of July, they seemed fairly optimistic about their second year
and moving forward.
And moving forward. It's also the battery plant up in Marshall County is for like commercial vehicles, not consumer vehicles.
And one interesting thing you pointed out is that while we're looking at some federal incentives going away, the one big beautiful bill it does include, I guess, what you could say are some incentives to for domestic production.
So the bill allows companies to deduct domestic production and investments in equipment immediately instead of spreading it out in multiple years. So the idea is that they would have more cash on hand. And that could help them continue to invest. And the PACCAR CEO seems to have some positive things to say about that. And so that it further incentivizes domestic manufacturing is the idea.
Michael, you've also had a busy week or two here recently. I should note one story actually coming out today, MississippiToday.org. Very interesting. A study, I'll let you explain it, but involving online gambling.
Yeah, so just to set the stage a little bit, of course, the legislature, or the House at the very least, has passed legislation to legalize mobile sports betting for the past several legislative sessions, only to see the legislation die in the Senate. That's been kind of against the backdrop of a lobbying blitz around the country to legalize mobile sports betting in states that haven't done so already, Mississippi being one of them. It's remained illegal amid fears that it could harm the bottom line of the state's casinos. And as there has been...
And there's still a general anti-gambling segment in Mississippi, right?
So, yeah, I think that religious institutions, always a powerful voice in Mississippi, have come out against mobile sports betting, although it was interesting this past session, you might, across the board, you didn't see as much of a full-throated, I would say, opposition as you might expect. But nevertheless, as the House has passed these bills, and it's become increasingly a priority of the House Speaker, Jason White, being very vocal about his support for mobile sports betting, wanting to use it to, among other things, fund the public retirement system in Mississippi. It has, I think, resulted in increased academic interest in assessing the public health risk of legalizing mobile sports betting. There's been a lot of reporting around the country, as well as academic research, on the rising problem of gambling addiction on college campuses. You sort of see that demographic cohort, maybe 18 to 22-year-olds, particularly men, in some cases sort of plunging themselves into debt, decreased academic performance, etc. The algorithms, of course, on gambling platforms, just like social media more broadly, are getting very advanced, and you're seeing increased use. So
it's literally at your fingertips.
It's literally at your fingertips.
Bet on anything and everything.
That's right. It's not just games. It's plays within games. It is, it seems as though every single moment of a sporting contest can be optimized, can be monetized and bet on at this point. So with all that being said, some professors at the Institute for, I believe, Student Wellbeing at the University of Mississippi were kind enough to give us a sneak peek of a recently completed study that will be published in the near future. It surveyed about 1,600 students around the state. Mississippi State was not included due to a technical quirk, not because the University of Mississippi completed the study and they were trying to.
Sure.
That's what they say, at least,
right,
and
right.
I trust the kind researchers I've been speaking to. But nevertheless, about 1,600 students from across the state were surveyed. a wide range of demographic categories are represented. And I think we'll get into the weeds on all of the different findings. You can read that in the print story that's coming out on our website on Monday. But I think perhaps the most interesting top-line finding to discuss is so the survey looked at gambling across the board, but placing bets on the mobile sports betting legitimate platforms such as DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, et cetera, that was, for the Mississippi students surveyed, the most popular way of placing bets. Nearly 60% of students who reported placing a bet, so gambling over the past year, did so, according to them, on a legal sports betting platform. So that's interesting because, of course, mobile sports betting remains illegal in Mississippi. So students are essentially finding ways to continue placing bets on these legitimate mobile sports betting sites rather than we've done some reporting on the influence of these illicit offshore betting platforms, which of course we know. We did a survey ourselves, and we know that, not just students, but Mississippians across the board who are maybe a little more tech savvy are making use of those. But this survey, I think, does break some news in that it shows that students are finding a way, again, to use these legitimate platforms. And a professor, one of the co-authors, he has a theory, and this is a theory that, he came to it just having, speaking to some of his students, and they told him that after Mississippi passed a law in 2023 requiring age verification to access adult content or, pornography websites, that students got a lot of practice with using VPNs to get around that age verification law. What a VPN is, I couldn't really tell you much.
Sure,
Virtual private network, I believe it stands for, but it essentially allows you to get around these age verification laws. So he believes that one explanation for that might be that students learned what a VPN was and got very good at using them as a result of that age verification law.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but basically what a VPN is it will somehow or another, you can usually download an app on your phone and it will connect you basically to another state.
Mask your real
location.
Sure. I can't fact check you there. It's well established that I am the Luddite of the office. So I'm glad that we have you here. But yes, I think that is right. And of course, making use of family and friends and in other states to place bets for students was a widely reported method for engaging in mobile sports betting as well. But yeah, I think that just zooming out, just the existence of this study as well, the impetus for it shows that I think that there's increased interest from research and the public more broadly in understanding the impact of mobile sports betting. That the House Speaker has said that he intends on marshaling legislation to legalize mobile sports betting again next session. And I think you're seeing researchers call for legalization to be paired with maybe increased funds to combat the harms of addiction, et cetera. So it'll be interesting to see. I know the research center isn't done on this front. It'll be interesting to see what more findings we uncover in the months ahead.
Well, one thing you just mentioned, though, appears to bolster maybe some of the argument that proponents have had, in that people are getting around the law currently. It's already happening, I guess. And their argument is, okay, we should regulate it and tax it.
Right. Yes, that's absolutely right. There's this question of, on the one hand, you want to have a clear-eyed view of the potential of legalization to, what impact it'll have on addiction. At the same time, the researchers were very clear with me that, what the findings show is that legality doesn't necessarily make an impact one way or another on people's behaviors, particularly college students. This is not a cohort that is unfamiliar with engaging in a whole host of sort of illegal behaviors. That's generally a big significant part of being in college. So
not that I'm speaking from any personal
Me neither.
Experience or anything, but I would say college students are usually pretty crafty and creative, and we'll usually find a way around the law and around things to have a little fun every now and then. That's
right. So as legislation is being drafted, as this issue is being considered, I think the practical, how it functions in the real world, particularly for a demographic like college students, is something to consider.
Sure. And I should note, I like how you say mo-bile. Taylor, isn't that a city in Alabama?
I think so. Mo-bile.
You've got two Californians on this episode.
Right.
I don't know if that's a California thing. It might just be a Michael Goldberg thing, but we're going with it.
Sure. Michael, one other thing to mention here. You've done a lot of work lately, really good work looking into Mississippi prison health care or the lack thereof. I think you've had another recent installment, you and Mina. That's something you're continuing to work on, is it not?
Yeah, so we have our ongoing Behind Bars, Beyond Care investigation into prison healthcare. We are looking at a really wide range of issues that center around how the Mississippi Department of Corrections administers healthcare with its private medical contractor, Vital Corps. This is an issue that really, it's been, of course, there's been scrutiny for years about sort of the quality of the care. Are Mississippi taxpayers getting their money's worth? Because you're seeing an increased share of quantity of taxpayer funds going to prison healthcare over the years. And I believe we're at about 121 million set to spend over the next fiscal year. And lawmakers really across the ideological spectrum have begun to ask,
why are we spending more?
Getting
less, perhaps?
So Representative Becky Curry, chairwoman of the House Corrections Committee, this is someone who is, I don't think she would object to me saying, very, very conservative, is not someone that is interested in abolishing prisons or something like that. She has really been leading the charge, using her chairmanship to get access to prisons, tour them herself. And, she told me that when she began touring prisons and seeing the quality of the healthcare administered or lack thereof, the conditions, she felt compelled to start introducing policies that might result in more oversight and reforms inside prisons. Those did not make it across the finish line last session, and she will continue next session. But on our end, we have reported on some instances in which inmates have been sort of denied care, have been trapped in restrictive housing for long periods of time. We're really just looking at kind of how the system operates from the ground up and the human implications of it. And the reporting has resulted in former corrections department officials coming forward and reaffirming that this is a topic and a question worth asking. We had the former government affairs coordinator for MDOC read one of our articles in this series and decide to come forward and outline what she saw and kind of the problems with that system. I won't get into all of it on the podcast because it's lengthy and complicated, but really encourage you to check out our Behind Bars Beyond Care investigation. We have a landing page on our website. So
yeah, Michael, I guess I'm just curious. Governor Tate Reeves has sort of direct oversight of the Department of Corrections, this agency. He's had a lot to say about Medicaid expansion and, being a pundit on recent special elections. What all has he said about, healthcare in MDOC?
Yeah, so I've asked the governor at least on 2 occasions in person about this. And the first time, if I recall correctly, I was asking about a bill or rather an effort to kind of audit the state of prison healthcare in Mississippi. Representative Curry, as I mentioned, wanted the Department of Health to perform a really comprehensive audit. According to her, the governor favors an approach that would see a private firm, out-of-state firm, do that audit. When I asked him about that, he said that, running a prison system is very difficult. And as a result, he would love if he could exist in a world where the speaker or the lieutenant governor could have oversight of MDOC instead of his office. I also asked him at the Neshoba County Fair about the findings that I just mentioned, this former Corrections Department official coming forward and outlining or alleging widespread medical neglect and mismanagement. And he said that he, was still had faith in the leadership of Corrections Department Commissioner Burl Cain, but that, in Vital Core's case, if it's uncovered that they are not meeting the terms of their contract, he'll hold them accountable for that.
All right. Well, as I said, y'all have been busy. Thanks for giving us a kind of roundup update here, and to read any of these articles we mentioned, please go to MississippiToday.org, and thank you for tuning in.